Everyone that's listening to this has had a symptom that didn't seem to make sense. So, what if that's the message to the universe that we just need to pause, understand it? Because mindset, consciousness, the way to get through it is hormesis. The same hormesis that we do for mitochondrial optimization, we need to overcome this separation of soul and vessel because we have to sit in the pain.
Welcome to the Myers Detox Podcast. I'm Dr. Wendy Myers, and on this show, we talk about everything related to heavy metal and chemical toxicity, the health issues caused by toxins, and more advanced topics in health. We talk about bioenergetics and anti-aging and so many amazing things to help you get all those puzzle pieces for your health so you can live your best life. And today we have my friend, Dr. Lisa Koche, on the show. We have just an amazing show. Dr. Lisa Koche is one of my favorite people, and she's such an intuitive healer, and we're going to be talking about her new book, The Unwritten Prescription, and all the things that she does to help her patients and give them insight and empower them essentially to take control of their own health. So we're going to be talking about mitochondrial health and some of the new research out there about how mitochondria actually produce energy and what you can do to optimize that. We're going to talk about her four-part healing method that she has established, and how you have to address, emotional trauma. You have to address affections in your gut health before you can really get into the peptides and all the biohacking and things that people do, because they're just not going to work as well if your cell membranes are messed up or your gut's messed up. We also are going to talk about regulating your nervous system and why that's so important. And we get into a lot of different modalities of bioenergetics and spirituality, and how you can heal your body through connecting through consciousness, connecting through spirituality, and the tremendous potential there as well, and how that's her kind of fourth phase of healing, is healing your body by calling in God to heal you. So that's definitely something that I think that a lot of people are missing in their health. So our guest today, Dr. Lisa Koche, she's an MD. She's a triple board certified physician, functional medicine and longevity expert, and quantum energy practitioner. She's the founder and director of Spectral Wellness Clinic and Longevity Center in Tampa, Florida. She's an international speaker, Tony Robbins lead physician for his Life Mastery Health program. Dr. Koche has lectured nationally and has been featured on numerous podcasts, radio, and TV segments across the country, and specializing in anti-aging and biohacking through regenerative, traditional, and integrative medicine. Dr. Koche is a true seeker, paving the way for access to unbiased science and medical freedom. And her own experiences with childhood leukemia and heart failure from chemo have driven her focus on finding the root cause of disease rather than merely treating symptoms. Dr. Koche has dedicated her career to cracking the code and making it simple for people to heal themselves and achieve peak performance. You can learn more about her work at spectrawellness.com. Lisa, thank you so much for joining the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so why don't you tell us about your new book that you have coming out?
So, my book is coming out this year. It's called The Unwritten Prescription, and it is about filling in the gaps that we've all felt in the traditional medical system and how to help patients, humans kind of bridge that gap.
Okay, great. Yeah, and so and what inspired the title and the message of the book?
We started out with the title with a different title, like I think happens to a lot of people that write books, but it was Sovereign Medicine, and it's the idea of empowering people that they can be their own highest versions of themselves and find answers, but they need to do it in a very intentional way. And the feedback I got from the publishers was that a lot of people in the lay people that are just mildly interested may not understand that word. So we reworked back to this title that hopefully explains it in a broader path, and then we define sovereignty very much so throughout the book, and how it allows people to be empowered on their health journey.
Yeah, and tell us about your past, because I think your story is really compelling, where you survived childhood leukemia, and that brought you into becoming a doctor. Can you talk about that?
Absolutely. I just had this conversation this morning at an event I was at. Like, people, it's really exciting time, which I'm sure, Wendy, you're excited about this too, or more and more people are waking up. They know Big Pharma is not the answer. They know that something's been missing. They're a little suspicious or wondering if it's intentional. Like, there's just some stuff happening. And a lot of integrative docs just got discouraged by the system they were in. The difference with me is I got sick at 15. So when I was diagnosed with childhood leukemia, I was old enough. It was like a sweet spot for the age because I was old enough to ask questions. I knew there should be a reason why they were telling me I was sick. I didn't even feel that at the time, just my labs were abnormal. And I was also young enough that I wasn't indoctrinated. So when I would ask my doctors, like, well, why is this? What happened? Why am I sick? And I got no answers. I did what, a lot of people do and said, I'm going to go figure it out myself. So I went to med school, lucky enough to have interest in science and the ability to get in, which it's a lot harder even now to get in. But I went through that process and I would watch as patients would come in and they'd present all their complaints. They'd get diagnostics or lab work and evals that didn't seem to answer their why either. And I would ask, okay, I understand this protocol, but why is this patient sick? And like, why did this happen to this person? And I got the blank stare and this is just how we do it. So that prompted me from day one to see I didn't poo-poo traditional medicine, which a lot of people do, and I don't agree with that. I took what I could from it, which is there is a lot of benefit there. There's especially if you're in an acute accident or you have something go on, and there are some meds that are very helpful. I don't think doctors, um, I don't think doctors as a whole, I know they don't go into medicine trying to be corrupt or trying to overprescribe things. It just sort of got hijacked at some point, the training. And so whenever that happened, where it became sort of monochromatic sort of vision, um, we left a lot of gaps. And so that incomplete piece is what is unwritten in my mind. So that's what I'm trying to help people understand because I've spent my whole career trying to fill those gaps.
And now a word from one of our sponsors. A big hidden stressor on our health today is something we're probably all staring at right now, blue light. And so from our phones, our laptops, our TV, our eyes and our circadian rhythm are constantly getting attacked. That's why I started using Bond Charge's blue light blocking products. And let me tell you, they have been a total game changer. So I'm wearing the Maverick blue light blocking glasses right now, and they even come with their own prescription. So these are prescription, and that's what's prevented me from using blue light blocking glasses in the past because I wear prescription glasses for reading, and so I need a pair of blue light blocking glasses that are prescription. So Bond Charge's science-backed blue light blocking products allow you to mimic ancestral light sources from night to day. So super important to use these products when the sun goes down, because when you are looking at blue light, you're basically communicating to your body that you're staring at the sun, and you release cortisol and you suppress melatonin production so you don't sleep as well, or it takes you longer to go to sleep. And that's just a disaster for your health long term. Trust me, you will feel the difference when you start using these blue light blocking glasses from Bond Charge. And right now, my listeners will get 15% off when you order from bondcharge.com and use my exclusive promo code Wendy at checkout. And the discount applies site-wide on all of their amazing products. So that's BONCHARGE.com. And you also get free shipping and a 12-month warranty as well. So go now and get this exclusive offer. That's bondcharge.com with promo code Wendy to get 15% off. Yeah. And one thing that's largely missing, that a lot of people have issues with is energy. And so everyone that's ill, they need energy to heal. Most people, their number one complaint is they have fatigue or brain fog, which is, lack of energy. And so can you talk about the mitochondrial medicine that you focus on? Because that's largely missing in modern medicine.
1000%. And it's fascinating because you would think this ancient bacteria that's been around for billions of years on the planet, so the mitochondria were their own bacteria. and they were somewhat hijacked by other cells to become to what turned into the initial humans. And they became what they call the power plant because they produce the most of our energy. So these organelles, which are a small part of what's inside the cell, so kind of like we have organs in our bodies, whether it's our liver or our lungs, we have organelles in our cells. And so inside our cells, we have our DNA, which is our blueprint for our genes, and many other things. But the mitochondria is probably one of the most important besides our genetic makeup. And when you study them, what happens is the truth is we learned more about mitochondria or about the same about mitochondria in ninth grade biology that we did in med school. It was like we would learn about a few genetic problems with the mitochondria, and that was about it. There's no deeper understanding until maybe about 10, 15 years ago. And so this is a rapidly evolving field that is still not even close to being unraveled, understood, because our mitochondria have so many different things that they do. I don't know if you've heard about the dynamic mitochondria and how even their structure is not what we thought it was.
Oh yeah, please. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
elaborate.
so we're taught again with this typical picture of what looks like a kidney bean, is what our mitochondria looks like. And it looks a lot like the plant's chloroplast, which is the plant's energy producing center. But one of the more recent things that we have found out about our mitochondria, which blew my mind, is that they're actually dynamic. So that snapshot of them looking like a kidney bean is not the case. And the biggest analogy or the easiest analogy is one that's spaghetti and meatballs. So what they say is if the mitochondria is stressed, especially initially when it first goes through stress, it becomes like a meatball. And if you think about it, what fascinates me, and we talk about this in the book some, is I'm always fascinated by how our internal environment parallels our community and our world. That brings in a lot of the spiritual work that I do, but a meatball looks like somebody in the fetal position. So literally the mitochondria and the cell to a certain degree as a whole, they lock down in the like offensive, they're in offense or defense, I mean, but they're doing this offensive position so that they can protect themselves. It's kind of like a country who locks their borders and they stop talking to their neighbors. They shut down because they don't want to infect, let's say it's a virus, they don't want to infect the other cells. And that meatball, once safety returns, literally the mitochondria stretch out. You can see this on electron microscopy. They stretch out and it's more like spaghetti. So who knew? Like I didn't know that. They stretch out and they hold hands and they share resources. So they will like, oh, my neighbor needs some electrons. Oh, I might need that. Like we don't understand this yet. We've just seen the beauty of it and we're trying to make sense of it.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, and there's also a connection between the mitochondria and the nervous system. So, can you talk about how stress, trauma, and emotional suppression directly affect our energy production?
Oh yeah, it's huge. So I've started because I'm like you, when you're a primary care doc slash integrative doc for 20 plus years, I mean, the most common complaint is I lost my edge, I'm exhausted, I have brain fog. So and then I was also spurned. I've been obsessed with the mitochondria because I had heart failure from the chemotherapy when I was 20. So that's a direct insult to mitochondria when you have a drug induced. Obviously, mine was extreme, but I've been searching for these connections my whole entire career. So their emotional stress and trauma is one very large component. And what happens is you can think of the mitochondria, so you can think of your nervous system almost like the motherboard, where if your body's a computer, the nervous system is sensing inputs. So it's constantly sensing, are we stressed or are we safe? The mitochondria does the same thing because the mitochondria was its own bacteria. So they maintain their own DNA. They maintain their ability to sense their environment. It's almost like the canary in the coal mine. If something's going on, they are going to trigger a set of responses, like the meatball response where they shut down. So what happens is your cell doesn't know the difference between a virus, a chemtrail or some toxin, or emotional stress, and the emotional stress the more I study it, is probably even more impactful than anything else, because we don't understand that it hangs out. It could be getting lost when you're 2 as a kid. Like, it doesn't have to be even extreme, although most people have some level of trauma throughout their life, and then they're not fully addressing it. They're living in survival. They're running their nervous system constantly, and the mitochondria is just saying, "Power down, power down. We've got, it's attack time here. We've got to conserve. A war's coming." So like that's what's happening at that cellular mitochondrial level, and the ongoing trauma of financial stressors, parenting, toxic relationships, whatever your particular choice of trauma is, that is constantly going to drain your energy source.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's such a huge factor that's completely overlooked by modern medicine. That's such a huge contributing factor to so many physical health issues and pain syndromes and things like that. Can you talk about the science behind why nervous system regulation is really the gateway to physical vitality?
So for me, and this is continually being, you know, understood more and more, and a lot came out around COVID time. There's a researcher in California, Bob Navio, that has coined something called the cell danger response. So he's put the science to this concept, which is CDR, or cell danger response 1, 2, and 3. And 1 is that defense mode where the meatball is there. And what happens when you're in cell danger response 1 is you're literally just trying to contain the stress. So your cell membrane can become impermeable, which is not good for receptor response to hormones, for your cell to cell communication. So people are taking hormones and supplements and, all peptides, which are all exciting, amazing things. But if your cell membrane is in lockdown and your mitochondria are signaling mayday, mayday, then this stuff isn't going to work. So that's another huge part of how I like to approach the work with patients, because to go from CDR1 to CDR2 and then on to 3 requires a safety signal of some sort. So you may be, knocking out your parasites. You may be doing your leaky gut. You may be working on detoxing and getting the mold out. That's all super important, because guess what? At the cellular level, that's going to be a threat that the mitochondria pick up on. But if your nervous system and your mitochondria are also still picking up that you've self-abandoned because you needed to just go fix everything because you were on eggshells as a kid and you became a people-pleasing accommodator, high achiever, which was me and like all my patients, then there's only so far you can heal. Like, you're going to get to a certain place, but then that CDR transition maybe it's like between 2 and 3 is not gonna happen. So we understand now that that nervous system survival limbic system overdrive prevents the cell signaling from going into a more healing response, and that's what's required for us to get all of our energy production back online.
I want to take a minute to give a shout out to one of our sponsors, True Energy Skincare. So they have an amazing serum that I am cuckoo about. I've been using their facial serum here for well over a year for a reason. This is just bar none my favorite product, and it's very, very light. It's just a serum you'll put on under your moisturizer. And the reason I use it is because it's a frequency-based skincare. So they have frequencies imprinted on this serum that improve collagen, improve elastin. Collagen is that support matrix in your skin that makes it look firm and juicy. And we lose that as we age. That accelerates rapidly after we hit menopause. You lose 30% of your collagen within 2 years after menopause. So I'm using everything I can get to improve collagen. And this has over 2,000 frequencies imprinted on it, and that are for skin nutrition to help the appearance of your skin, the fine lines, the age spots, and it will smooth out the texture of your skin as well. And this has been my secret weapon that I've been using to improve my skin, look and feel and health for, like I said, for well over a year. I'm not promoting this because they're a podcast sponsor. I'm promoting this because this is one of my secret weapons. I love this product and I use it every single night under my moisturizer. And this has no toxic ingredients in it whatsoever. And it has lots of nutritive ingredients as well. It's got fruit enzyme extracts. It's got oat kernel extract. It's got oat beta glucans. It's got beech bud extract, and it's got algae and chlorella in it as well. So lots of great nutrition in this, as well as the frequency enhanced aspects of it. Because any old product can moisturize your skin. That doesn't impress me. But the results you get from this are bar none, and that is why I highly recommend it. They have a very good offer for my listeners. Go to trytruenergy.com/Wendy. That's trytruenergy.com/Wendy and get a very, very special deal for my listeners. Yeah, and you mentioned earlier that, you really can't separate spirit from modern medicine. And so why can we no longer separate our biology from consciousness?
I think there's a couple reasons. And one is just the shift. There's a transition and you can kind of feel it on the planet where we're entering a time where the old way of being just isn't going to work anymore. It's more we've damaged enough of the earth. Like somebody's got to understand the connection with nature, the connection with the planet, how we were supposed to live. And I think because of the computers, the remote work, the everyone getting lost in their phone, we're seeing more illness than ever because we're meant to be a connected species. So like that is something that interestingly enough, I'm reading the Celestine prophecy, which is from 30 something years ago. And I
Yeah, I
was like,
read that so long
yeah,
ago.
I never read it. I never even read it. You want to do it again because I have been blown away what that thing is talking about. It was so ahead of its time. And when people, I think was almost like predicting this time where what if AI and all these technologies were here to help us free up a little bit so we can actually get back to connecting to each other? Because we're the planet and the sun and the plants in general and the trees, like there is enough energy there that we are meant to work with together and we're not meant to just take it from other people. And that's where I think humanity kind of got veered off to the left by mistake.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I'll have to revisit that book. I don't even recall what was in it. I read it so long ago, but yeah, I remember being very moved by it for sure. Let's talk about bioenergetics because this is one of my favorite topics. This is something I use every single day for my health. I have multiple modalities of different bioenergetic software and devices and things that I use, and it's really the future of healing. Can you talk about that and how you use it?
yeah, so I'm still incorporating. I'm obsessed as well. There's everything, as we know, from things that help support voltage across our cell membranes to pulse electromagnetic fields to light therapy, which could be considered bioenergetic, to sound therapy. I think if people are not yet bringing some of that into their world, they're really missing a huge chunk of healing. And for me, I was really lucky because I met a very gifted naturopath probably 20 years ago when I was having issues after I had my daughter, who helped me understand mold and the leaky gut and liver overload and chronic viruses and all the things that we learn in functional medicine. So I was kind of really deep down that path, but I was observing that patients were cycling back with the same issues. Like they'd feel better for a while, but they would come back. And then I got this call about 15 years ago by somebody who had built a device that was color, music, and vibration. and it was an engineer and a layperson, and they built it for the layperson's daughter who had type 1 diabetes. And they called the local university and said, "Look, we're reversing autoimmunity. We don't understand why. We're putting people into a parasympathetic state, and we really want to get this studied." So here's a couple of people that had all the right intent that stumbled upon by, the bioenergetics and all, and a lot of this frequency work. They had binaural beats in their music, like incredible stuff. And the university said, "That's too out there for us. Call Dr. Lisa." So they called me. I had no idea what they were talking about. I went to go try this bed, and, you're in it. I'm so glad my dad came with me because it was in a warehouse, and you're, like, in this coffin-looking bed, because, again, this was back then, and when he opened the door after the therapy was done, he started gagging, and he said, "Do you not smell that?" And I was like, "Not really." He said, "It smells like a medicine waste dump." And it was chemo that was coming out of my energy field that I hadn't had in 20 years. So for me, it just piqued my interest where I was like, "Okay, we don't understand the body." Like, there is a vessel here that clearly has some chemical aspects, everything I learned in medical school, all the things I'm learning in functional medicine, but there is way more, and I started studying vibrational medicine and energy healing, and I think now, like you said, we finally have a lot of different modalities. The frustration I have is we still don't have a lot of diagnostics. So just like and we have some, but just like we are kind of throwing spaghetti at the wall with using spaghetti analogy again, but with mitochondrial medicine, we're just everybody's just taking everything. I feel like that's what's happening in bioenergetics as well. So I look forward to the time where we have the ability to maybe dial that in a little bit more, but I like everything from charging plates to polarity resets. I have a lot of healers that do hands-on energy work. One of my best friends is a blind healer who works with Jinshin, which is an acupuncture without the needles, and she's had to help my body. Like, when I got stuck, I found her at the right time, and she was teaching flows that you could literally do on yourself. So those are some of my favorite modalities, are working with healers who understand the meridians and resetting like that flow and connection. And every day there's something else that's coming out, which
Yeah,
is
there's so
exciting.
many amazing bioenergetic softwares, and you can do scans of your body, and it's just it just continues to amaze me. Even when I'm using all these things, I've been using stuff for 10 years. I'm still my mind is still blown by what it can
Yeah,
do.
no, it is. And I'll tell you my opinion, which is that, like, we know a lot of people that get very nervous about things like 5G and EMFs, and I agree they're a problem. Um, and I think the future down the line is the more aligned with your higher self and the more spiritually aligned that you can get, a lot of these things are going to correct and be not able to affect your body the same way.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's so many ways to protect yourself as well. Like bioenergetic ways and using PEMF and different things you can do to clear, the positive effects of 5G off your body. Like, I mean, like positive charge on your
Exactly.
body and get that grounded negative charge. But let's talk about the role of consciousness and belief in healing. Can you talk about like mindset and self-awareness and how that can shift biochemistry?
So what I've seen, and I learned this, I did a 2-year school for the healing and intuitive arts because I've always had a big interest in this. It was with a couple of shamans, that it wasn't plant medicine. It was more using, which by the way, I think can be helpful in some instances, but I also think it's highly overused for the wrong reasons. um, and can be dangerous. So I always like to give a disclaimer to that. But these particular healers that I studied with, we were using more of our hands and the ability to kind of go into a higher consciousness as healers and add that to whatever other modality we were utilizing. So what I learned there about myself is when you look at early childhood and whatever your trauma is, and obviously some of mine was illness, but some of it's just your own parents, their control drama is what they call it in Celestine prophecy, but everybody's got their own things that they are dealing with. And what happens is very often the next generation comes in and they're more evolved than their parents. So to make it work in the home, it's almost like the soul bails from the body. So it's like, this doesn't feel good. I'm gonna go find something over here. And so there's some patterns, they call it a lever, a merger, where the soul literally will go and get busy elsewhere so it doesn't have to feel the pain. It kind of leaves the body to fend for itself. This is the how I view it. So we see that today with people just constantly scrolling that don't look up from their phone, people that overwork, people that, have addictive behaviors to just about anything, but also just like I said, people pleasing, um, like type A overachieving people. It can often be so they don't have to feel, and then what happens is they get sick, and because the consciousness and the soul and the higher power connection is not in the body, which is the vessel, they try to learn how to bring it back, and it's almost like you dip your toe back in and it feels nasty. So it's like, "Oh, no way, I'm out of here." And so you easily go back into those sort of survival protocols or actions that you used to make it. So they're not bad per se, although addictive, some of them are. But it becomes such an ingrained routine that you don't even realize your mindset is in survival. It's subconscious. So that's part a lot of what I love to do with my patients is explore like what type of survival type personality slash skills do you think you hold on to, and how do we get you back in your body? So I love things even like just a CGM because that's measuring your glucose. Most people think of it as just, I want to look at what's happening with carbs and see if I need ketones and all that's great. I still love all that too. But there's something about just having a patient understand that what they're eating is, like, connecting to what's happening inside their body. And there's a device that I really like, called the Apollo. Have you heard of that one yet? Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
So I don't love all these 9,000 gadgets necessarily, but that one I do because it is even though it's EMF and Bluetooth, it's treating the patient and it's putting them back in their body through vibration. It's also not distracting them. So the psychiatrist that developed that device was treating PTSD veterans that couldn't be touched. And he researched, can I stimulate the touch receptor in the brain, which will indirectly stimulate the vagus tone? And when I started working with this, and he and I have had numerous conversations, but I've noticed patients being able to bring that consciousness back in gradually a lot easier. And they only have to wear it for like an hour a day.
Are you taking collagen supplements? Well, check this out. So, our friends at Organifi have sourced the best collagen on the planet, and you can get it with 20% off savings today, too. So, what is collagen? So, it's the most abundant protein in our body. It's everywhere. It's in your muscles, your joints, your hair, your skin, your fingernails, everywhere. And it's one of the fundamental building blocks of life. And your body uses collagen constantly to keep itself refreshed and repaired. But as you get older, especially as women that are going into menopause, you can lose 30% of your collagen within the first 5 years of menopause. And that starts in perimenopause as well. So your body just stops making as much of it and you start losing it, especially as your estrogen levels come down. And so that's why consuming collagen is such a great idea every single day. So it gives your body a fresh supply to keep working at its best. And it's not only good for your hair, skin, and nails, it helps to support your gut and metabolic health, your immune system, your cardiovascular strength, and all of your muscles and moving parts too. And collagen's nothing new. It's one of the oldest supplements out there. And collagen supplements have been around for quite a while now. But what makes Organifi so special is it's all about the quality. So the non-organic collagens scare me. They're really, really problematic because they can be full of glyphosate and pesticides and other chemicals that you do not want to be taking on a daily basis. because not all collagens are the same. So it can come from many different sources, and the source can drastically impact its potency and effectiveness as well. And some manufacturers just go with the cheapest stuff that they can find and then add fillers and artificial flavors, and they still charge you a lot of money for that. So Organifi always goes the extra mile to ensure their quality is the best. So they blend 5 collagen types from 4 different sources, and they taste and test until it's perfect. And then they go even further to test for things like glyphosate residue and other sneaky toxins that can get into the mix. And after passing through all of these goalposts, it finally gets the Organifi seal of approval. So you can rest assured it's the highest quality and non-toxic. And I love that this company is a company that I can trust, that their products will be safe and effective exactly as they say they will be. And in the supplement world these days, that kind of honesty and transparency is getting harder to come by. So if you've never tried collagen, now is a great time to start. And if you're already taking it, now is a great time to switch to a better brand, upgrade what you're doing right now. So you and your entire body are going to love Organifi. Collagen is something that I take on a daily basis. It's been a part of my supplement routine for the past 5 years since I went into menopause. And so I can't recommend it highly enough. And so now let's talk about saving you some cash as well. Here's what you do. Go to Organifi.com/Myers Detox and put in coupon code Myers Detox to get 20% off. So go to Organifi, ORGANIFI.com/MYERSDETOX. And don't forget the Myers Detox coupon code as well. You'll save an extra 20% off by putting in my special coupon code Myers Detox. So like I said, collagen is one of those things that I take every single day. It's one of the most important parts of my anti-aging protocol, the things I'm doing to fight off the clock. So for me, taking clean collagen is really important. It's hard to find. So I highly, highly recommend Organifi collagen. Yeah, I was sent one and I gave it to a friend of mine who had a lot of trauma and they just loved it. They just wore it all the time and just really felt like it helped a lot to kind of reset their nervous system and get better at, self-regulation of their nervous system.
Absolutely. And that's just one example. There's many devices, but I think anything that brings you present back into your body, as painful as it may feel. And there are a lot of spiritual disciplines that talk about this. So there's a guy, David Guillaume, that's bringing ancient principles based on Kabbalah, which is not, people think it's religious. It's not, it's prior to religion. And what he's teaching is every time you feel triggered, you need a pause. So it's like we've heard that before, but we are all so fast to go into the trigger, it doesn't break the pattern and you have trouble identifying it. So learning to just pause and ask, like, why is this in my movie? Why is this happening? What's the message for me? Being curious about what's happening, because I do believe the universe comes in, especially as people are ready to wake up when it's the right time for them, with the lessons. Like I was just telling my sister, my niece, who's this gorgeous high school girl, got a little alopecia right in the middle of her head, and she's gonna be fine. But I'm like, the universe likes to pick what they know you're gonna respond to. So it's like for her, it might be that.
Losing my
For
hair. Oh
the
my God, I gotta
for the next
fix
person, I saw
everything.
somebody this morning, I went and did a magazine thing today, and the person who was helping me with my hair could barely walk. Her back pain came out of nowhere. So it's like everyone that's listening to this has had a symptom that didn't seem to make sense. So what if that's the message and the support of the universe, that we just need to pause, understand it, sit in the pain. And that's what's beautiful about my career in general, is it keeps coming full circle, because mindset, consciousness, the way to get through it is hormesis, which I've been talking about for years. So the same hormesis that we do for mitochondrial optimization, we need to overcome this separation of soul and vessel, because we have to sit in the pain.
Yeah,
And
that's
it's
so
not fun. It's just not
no,
fun.
no, it's not. I have to be alone and
Yes.
just face the things you don't want to face. So let's talk about longevity versus vitality that you talk about in the book. So what are some of the tools that the technology that actually make a big difference, like peptides or like red light, hyperbaric, hydrogen, things like that?
So in the book, what I go through is the 4 phases of healing. So what's interesting is not everybody goes through in the same order. So you and I both know the longevity bros and the people that are like deep in stem cells and peptides and all this great stuff, but they may have a completely dysregulated nervous system. Or the people that are obsessed with parasite cleanse all the time and they never get to a phase where they're understanding longevity options, right? They're just trying to follow what trend they need to do to get this fixed, which very well may be needed. Or there's even the spiritual people who are meditating and trying to bring the things into being and they forgot to heal their gut or work on the parasites. So like people come from lots of different paths. And so the most important point I'll make here is there's an incredible amount of new things out there, whether it is a bunch of peptides like SS31 and MOTS that are mitochondrial that can really potentially slow aging, reverse it, whether it is different types of stem cell therapies. I'm playing with V cells, which are fascinating to me, which we can talk about if you'd like. Um, there, the stuff is out there and it's exciting, and I use a little bit of everything. But I think the most important part is to understand so that my 4 phases are reclaim, which is reclaiming your sovereignty, but also so it's reclaiming your nervous system, and all the backup systems that go with it, your foundations, and healing your cell membrane. Then it's healing, which because you really needed that reclamation first. So most patients that come in, we're still dialing in reclamation first, no matter if they're like a professional athlete or somebody who's just been from one doctor to another. And once we get that under control, or as best as we can, sometimes we have to move forward and really work on the healing piece quicker than others. But if we can at least calm that nervous system down some, then we can go into whatever they need next. So, very often it's healing. That's another phase. That's all the toxins and leaky gut and infections, the things that we learn a lot about in functional medicine. And then we get into performance. That becomes the mitochondrial optimization that you're talking about and longevity. And so the biggest key in that category is make sure that you've reclaimed and healed because your mitochondria are not going to respond to these incredible therapies, whether again it's peptides, stem cells, V cells, um, hormesis with red light and with cold therapy and PEMF, they're not going to respond unless they've been stabilized with those first 2 signals. And then the last phase is transcend, which involves what we're talking about with consciousness.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, because I think people don't realize how powerful they are to call in God, call in their higher power, call in Jesus, whatever you want to call it, to heal your body. And
Yeah.
it's incredibly powerful. I've had crazy stuff happening from meditating and praying and just really profound healings in my body happen just from that. And so things that I couldn't deny, I could not deny were happening.
And it's so beautiful because what I think my hope is it's gonna bring back peace on the planet because when people understand it's not religious battles, like, there's not one religion that has it better than the next religion. It's basically the universe, source, Jesus, God, the light. It doesn't matter who you choose to call it or what you choose to call it. It is that universal power of love, connection, and a higher source that when you tap in and trust and really keep your certainty and certainty beyond logic, which is like a knowing, that's when, like you said, these massive healings can happen immediately, which is so exciting because if we think about bringing that in along with all these incredible longevity tools we have, like, the sky's the limit, and that's what I think Joe Dispenza is doing a lot of active research on, and there's some mitochondrial testing being done at his retreats to see the power of that consciousness and what it does with longevity, with mitochondrial performance. And so we're going to find out more and more over the next few years.
Yes. And so let's talk about reclaiming sovereignty and like becoming the CEO of your own health. Can you talk a little about that? Because I think a lot of people outsource it to other people. They outsource their health and all of the answers and all of the decisions to their doctor. And maybe, I always advocate for people consulting with a team, like a functional medicine, like not just a functional medicine doctor or an alternative healer, or not just focusing on one doctor, your primary care physician, you only do what they say. You've got to take some responsibility in doing your own research and not just outsourcing it to everyone. You have to learn about your health and how to take care of it.
And this is a fascinating question because I see the whole spectrum. So I'll have, the typical patient who has outsourced it to their practitioner. That's kind of the old school way of like the doctor knows best and we've got to do what the doctor says. I think that's fallen a little bit more away. I mean, most people understand they want support of a practitioner, but many people have been manipulated, gaslit, and told their symptoms are not real. Lots of nasty things or diagnoses that I don't even think are legit. And then they're getting labeled as something, and then the patient owns it. And then that brings its own set of problems. So when I talk about reclaiming sovereignty, it's how do you understand, like, can you be so connected to yourself? So it kind of sovereignty incorporates everything we've been talking about. It's trusting your intuition, being able to know there's a higher source, being able to talk to a team, being able to question things. But it also means that, like, if you, let's say you decide you disagree with something, standing on a soapbox about that and never wanting to step off of it. I see that a lot with like influencers or people that are focused on one thing. It's like medicine and science is the art of evolution. Like things change. I am the first one to be like, "Oh, that didn't work," or "I don't know what's next, but it seems like there's some issues here now." So it's being able to have that conversation with your practitioner, like, and have them actually listen instead of throwing a lot of times the practitioner will throw their own trauma back onto the patient. Like if they have never, maybe explored any of this and they're scared of looking bad, or they literally just don't know what else to do with the patient. That's where a lot of the problems came in. And now the access to knowledge is so easy with chat and, websites and things, and people that are providing these labs and other functional tests, that it's almost gone too far the other way too. So I see both populations where I'll have patients who come in. I actually saw a woman the other day in her 30s who, she told me all her friends are like, oh, doing everything, doing all of these things, right? They're doing function health and they're putting all their supplements into chat, and they're like, they've got it all figured out. And meanwhile, she feels like lacking. She feels way behind because she's not having the same results as them. And so I took one look at her, and I do a lot of just intuitive tapping into the fields. And I'm like, you're way beyond energetically where they are. So, like, people are individual beings, and what works for them may not work for you. And this is where I don't see computers replacing a healer that's really tapped in and can collaborate with their patient. So it's that journey into, where's the knowledge of my higher source? How can I ask questions? How can I tap in here into my sovereignty instead of just going into a somewhat hijacked brain, which can confuse us and get us out of what we thought was going to be the right decision. So I talk about the three principles of truth is one of the things I like to speak about, which helps people understand sovereignty. And the first one is that something may be true, but be hijacked by agendas, right? So we all saw that in pandemic. We've seen that with big pharma. We've seen that in lots of places where, as a human, as a patient, you may feel inside like something doesn't feel right. You're seeing, the disclaimer at the bottom of the commercial, but you are fed these agendas all the time. So you've just dismissed yourself over and over again. And then principle number 2 is something may be true, but blocked by your own self-doubt, self-cultural programming, these types of individual things like you were saying that you haven't sat with because it's too painful. Like that can lead to gaslighting yourself, which is probably the worst trauma there is. But it blocks that same thing of finding the sovereign path. And then principle number 3, which is my favorite, which is something may be true, but it's just not yet proven. And that's the art of medicine, science. Like who knew we would find light receptors on cells? Who knew there were 4 phases of water? Like none of us. So what do we not know right now? And are you willing to be intuitive and question and curious and open enough to ask those questions?
And now a word from one of our sponsors. So if you cook with nonstick pans, there's a good chance that you're consuming plastic. And so it's not fear mongering, it's what the current research suggests. And so there's a 2024 study that showed that just one scratch from a Teflon coated pan can release thousands of microplastic particles into food during cooking. Every saute, every egg, every healthy homemade meal. And these particles don't just exit the body, they accumulate in your arteries, in your brain tissue, and may contribute to hormonal imbalance, to inflammation, and cardiovascular risk. So there was one study that found a 4.5 times higher risk of heart attack or stroke in people with microplastics lodged in arterial plaque. And others have identified plastic particles inside brain tissue itself. This is why reducing daily toxic exposure wherever possible is such an important part of long-term health. And it's not just old or damaged cookware. Research suggests that even brand new nonstick pans can begin shedding particles from every use. So this is one reason that I'm very, very mindful about the materials that I use in my kitchen. That's why I recommend the P600 ceramic cookware. I personally use these. The P600 is completely free from Teflon, from PFAS, and plastic-based coatings. It's made with Swiss engineered ceramic, designed to be truly non-toxic, and it heats evenly, it cleans easily, and most importantly, it doesn't add to your toxic load. So reducing exposure doesn't require perfection. It's just about making smart upgrades where they matter the most. So if cookware is something that you use daily, and this is a very meaningful place to start, right now, the P600 cookware is 50% off. And for a limited time for my listeners, you can take an additional 20% off by using coupon code Wendy20 at checkout. Just go to chefsfoundry.com, use coupon code Wendy20. Your body and your detox pathways will thank you. Yeah, and to try things that may not have hardcore double-blind clinical trials behind it, because there's a lot of things that I use that they don't have double-blind clinical trials. Like I
100%.
use Rife, I use another software called Biogenesis, and all these things that help me so much. And there's no clinical trials. You can't go online and read research about it, and but it's just some things require a leap of faith and just to try them to see what works, and if you get desperate enough, you will.
He'll try anything. Yeah. And I noticed, I bring up things a little bit. I love all those modalities too. And I also just talk about something super basic, which is communing with your vessel, talk to it. Like if you have recurrent Epstein-Barr, ask the virus. If the virus has a consciousness, what are you here? Why are you here? What's the message? What can I do to help you move on? Like I don't need you activated right now. Like that sounds really woo and out there. What if what if that's something we're going to understand in 10 years? I don't know, but it sure as heck isn't going to hurt anything. And then these other devices have been around for such a long period of time. Like, how can we utilize things like right frequencies, connection at a conscious level with our cells and pathogens that may be in our environment? How can we evolve beyond this in ways that we don't understand that the human's capable of healing and just not just healing, like you said, longevity and slowing aging and potentially accessing skills and gifts that we didn't know we had access to. Because like you look in the Bible, like you said, they were living in the Old Testament till like 800, 900. So what is that all about? was that just here, is that just BS? I don't think so, but I don't know, right now it would be nice to make it like healthy people making it to 120, 130, which seems more and more practical every day with all these great tools we have. But I think if you don't also adapt the spiritual, conceptual, and obviously the bioenergetic side, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, and I think also that I love using the bioenergetics because it is very anti-aging. And that's something I'm super focused on. And a lot of people listening are very advanced in their health. They're doing all kinds of things for their health and they're always looking for that next level. The bioenergetics is just amazing what you can do for detoxification and anti-aging and sending nutrients to your body with via frequencies and just really interesting.
Yeah, I love that. And actually, because we don't understand, and it's probably going to even take the place of a lot of the other things that we're all doing now, like it's going to move forward. And I just heard a practitioner who found a way to put nutrients, get them attached to carbon so they're more alive. Like even just basic look at supplements is shifting and that's sort of bioenergetic, but it is the charge, like the life charge behind things that whether it's our soil, whether it's what we're getting off the trees, whether it is the frequencies of music, which I think are super fascinating. Um, like a lot of times I'll get my information from a box of tarot cards, which sounds crazy, but there may be a message there. And this healer is suggesting the solfeggio frequency for inner truth. And then I turn it on and sleep to it. And then I notice the next day that stuff is happening, sometimes too quickly. And then I'll say, "Can we slow this down for a second?" But yeah, I mean, there's different layers from the bioenergetic machines, devices that are starting to get more scientific proof. And we're doing a study right now with Lila Q, who's sending healing frequencies that protect from EMF that also help shift the cellular makeup inside this. It shifts both the EMF frequency and the cell's response to it. We're studying it on a double-blind study. We're waiting for the results to come back using a mitochondrial test called Me-Screen, and we should have about 40 patients' results back in the next couple weeks, but I can tell you a couple of my staff, it's double-blinded, so they don't know, and half was given the frequency the first month and then they switched off the second month, half was giving it the other way around. And we had several people who said, "I know I was in the first group." Like, they felt it. And then when we finally got, like, the, info, they were right. So we haven't seen the actual mitochondrial result yet, but we've seen enough to know the patient knew.
Wow, that's fascinating. Yeah, and then let's talk about like the central message of your upcoming book. Like healing is a conscious collaborative process.
Yeah, the central message is that the prescriptions that are out there, it's not black and white. Like, just because somebody writes a prescription is not bad, but they're also very incomplete. And so when you hear somebody online saying that there's no need for prescriptions and poo-pooing medicine completely, that's just as bad as the other way around. There is an intuitive, sovereign place that you can be in where you ask the questions, you hopefully find the right practitioner, and that could be any type of healer to help you navigate and send you to the humans maybe that are starting to understand that this journey is unique depending on where you're at. And you can navigate these four pathways of reclaiming and healing, performing, and then transcending. And I believe that's sort of the magic to get to the level that we understand today, which could be blown away in another 20 years.
Yeah,
So
and
that what's not written yet, what is unknown, and just making life a wonder again. Like, let's wonder if we have cells that can shut down like a country shuts its borders, and mitochondria that do that, and then they shift into spaghetti that share resources with the community, which is what we do as humans. Like that to me, that's the big message. We're meant to be a connected, loving society that needs humanity, not people that walk around, not saying hello anymore and staring at their phone. And that's unfortunately what we're teaching the young people. So I'm really excited because we just opened our big center, 8,000 square foot center, because for me, and it's funny because I was told back in the day, you've been doing functional medicine longer than most people. You don't need to have all the annoying stuff of a brick and mortar. You need to be virtual. I was told that by so many coaches, like, or people that were big in my field. And as a doctor, I've had this weird intuitive connection, not weird, but I've been lucky enough since my diagnosis at 15. I knew I was going to be okay, and I knew there was a purpose for me getting sick. So I just learned to kind of not question that. So when people told me that and I sat with it, it was like, no, I'm not going to give that up. I would love to reach more people. So I want to build my online presence. I want to write my book. I want to do speaking, but I don't want to give up this idea of human connection that's, in person sharing energy. And here we are 15 years later, and some of the same types of people calling me saying, "Oh my God, you're brilliant. You have the only AI proof business." I'm like, okay, but it's like because and I didn't do it for that, I did it because I felt in my soul that we need humanity, we need community. So we have space for groups and we're having a labyrinth where you can meditate, we're having a sauna that fits 20 people so that people can go back, the contrast therapy, but also room for sound bowl and classes outside. And that's kind of in addition to all the other performance center and different things that we have here. And yesterday, I was giving a tour because we just opened like a week and a half ago, and there were 2 women sitting in the lobby. This is actually really funny, that I did not know. So they were seeing my other doctor and my chiropractor, and I was talking to somebody, and then I just said, "Hi, I hope you guys are enjoying." And so it was probably like a 50-something-year-old woman and like a 23-year-old woman. And they were sitting across this little seated space. And I just said, and they were like, "Oh, it's so beautiful." And she was like, "I know my mom knows somebody that knows you. And are you Dr. Lisa? I was wanting to meet you." And I was just chatting with them. And then I said, "Well, I'm glad you like it because my purpose is to bring people back into community. And you guys, you're sitting here. I want you to be able to meet interesting people instead of just being on your phone." And I think they were both like, "Oh God, now I'm stuck talking to this woman." I was happy on my phone. But the funny part of the story was when I stopped talking and was saying bye, the younger woman in her 20s looks at the other lady and goes, "Are you Jennifer?" And she's like, "Yeah." And then she's like, "I didn't wanna creep you out, but I thought that's who you were, but I didn't wanna say hi because I didn't want," I was like, "See? The community's already beginning." Like, and then I just walked away. I was like, "My work's done." So that, like, creating an intentional space for people to be able to meet always meant so much to me, so it's perfect timing for the book coming out too.
That's great. I would love to come to it because I love your work. I admire you so much. And I love just that you're putting these cutting edge principles or like getting these cutting edge principles out to people and getting the message out to people. And I just respect your work so much.
As do I with yours, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
having me.
So your new book is called The Unwritten Prescription: Why Real Healing Starts Within. So as everywhere, highly, highly recommend it. So you said it's coming out in December 2026?
Yeah, it's coming out in December this year, but we'll have pre-sales whenever the publisher tells me they're ready. But I'm very excited. We're taking clips from it on our social media pages and being able to kind of bring some of these concepts because the planet needs now.
So, for anyone listening that really wants to detox their body, go to heavymetalsquiz.com. I created a quiz for you. It only takes a couple of seconds. Based on some lifestyle questions, you can get your toxicity score and get a free video series that answers all of your frequently asked questions about how to detox your body. Check it out, heavymetalsquiz.com.
Yes. And what is there a website for the book or where can people
Not
get it?
yet, but if you go on either Spectra Wellness, which is my clinic website, or Dr. Lisa, there'll be lots of information. And Dr. Lisa is my Instagram and Facebook as well.
Okay, fantastic. Well, Dr. Lisa, thank you so much for coming on the show. Always love having you on. You've been on a couple other times as well. So you guys can go check those out as well. Also very, very eye-opening. And so again, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. Look forward to seeing you soon.
Yes, and everyone, thanks so much for tuning in to the MyRC Talks podcast. I'm Dr. Wendy Myers, and I love bringing you experts from around the world to help give you those missing pieces of the puzzle in your health, because I want you to feel good. I want you to get the answers that you're seeking, and I hope this show has helped you do that. So thanks for tuning in.
The Myers Detox Podcast is created and hosted by Wendy Myers. This podcast is for information purposes only. Statements and views expressed on this podcast are not medical advice. This podcast, including Wendy Myers and the producers, disclaim responsibility for any possible adverse effects from the use of information contained herein. Opinions of guests are their own, and this podcast does not endorse or accept responsibility for statements made by guests. This podcast does not make any representations or warranties about guest qualifications or credibility. Individuals on this podcast may have direct or indirect financial interest in products or services referred to herein. If you think you have a medical problem, consult a licensed physician.